Yo guys, I finally made it part 2 of this, even though I just uploaded it a day later. I kind of promised I would, even if we didn't get to the like goal. I don't mind, because I want to continue making this what if. I will make sure to hop back on the other what if I'm currently doing, and leave a comment on what I should do next, because I'm still trying to come up with ideas. Anyways, roll the intro. Anyways, guys, if you wanna check out part 1 before you check out this, because that'll help you get a good handle on what we're on right now. He transformed. He got bigger, and bigger. He started growing fur. His tail got longer, and then he turned into some creature that resembled an ape. He turned into a great ape. He was shooting mouth beams everywhere. He wasn't that powerful, but it was enough to cause a lot of havoc in the village. And then some other couple of villagers came over too, to try and help. Everyone was trying to stop this big monster, but no one knew who it was. The only person who really knew who it was Yuno and Sister Lily. But they couldn't do anything to stop Asta, and because they were the only ones who really knew it was Asta because of the tail. They recognized it. And the old man he was currently sleeping. Then Magic Knight, who was a couple villages over, he came over. His name was Yami. He came over. He was part of a Magic Knight squad. He wasn't a captain yet, but he still was a higher up in his squad. He's part of the deer. And he was really hoping to stop this monster because he didn't even know what it was. He would do his darkness slash towards the tail, and it would cut it, because he thought it would be a weak point of the monkey boy. But he was surprised by seeing that after he cut off the tail, that the boy turned back to normal. And he was glad he cut off the tail, because it proved that was the source of the power he just gained. Asta wouldn't really lose any power from losing the tail. It's just he'll become a bit weaker than he was before. So, and he's 7 right now, so it kind of makes sense. And this was a big night that caused everyone in the village to start hating Asta even more. Even Yuno started looking at Asta differently, but they still liked each other. It was just much differently, because Asta would not grow his tail back for a couple of years, but he would eventually grow it back. And people would tell him over the years, while time was passing to when he turns 15, people would tell him that do not go outside at exactly full moon. And he would believe it. He'd believe that he was a monster, so he'd just go into the woods and train as hard as he could. This would make him able to get even stronger than before. I'd say I'd say he would be 4 to 5 times stronger than he was in this show at the beginning, when he turns about 12, 13. And let's get into something when he turns 12 to 13. While Asta was training, he was still trying to get a grip on this new thing he called ki. He just started feeling things around him. It's kind of like how Yami had it, but he's actually learning how to use it. He's learning ki sense, like how Yami uses, but he's trying to use that right now. But he's not gonna learn like ki blast or anything like that right now. But he's learning ki sense right now. He's currently training with his ki sense because he picked it up a couple of days before. While that was happening, a couple of boar came over, and he had a deal with them. He's had a deal with them for a couple of weeks because how much training he's been doing and how much ruckus he's been causing monsters to come over to him. Then some bird was there, but he wouldn't really try to mind it. Kind of looked kind of cute. And he continued training, and he eventually beat the boar, and then he then went back outside to see one last time before saying, I will beat you one day, and I'm going to train right before we get our grimoires. And then would say, well, no you won't. I promise I'll get even stronger than you ever will. And he won't get physically stronger, but he's definitely going to be magically stronger. Yuno's still comparable to Asta. It's just Asta has much of an upper hand in strength. His strength gives him the advantage over Yuno. He can beat up Yuno any day, but Yuno can hold him off for a bit. And then he was about 15. He started to get ready for his grimoire. He just got ready. Yuno was much taller than him, even though he trained as hard as he could. He was only a couple inches behind Yuno, actually. He wasn't as short as he was. He was about, in the actual show, he was about like 5'1", but this time he's about like 5'8", 5'9". He's a normal height. Yuno's like 6 foot. He's just tall. So I'd say if Asta was a Saiyan, he would be about 5'8", 5'9" by 15. And he would be much. He had a lot of muscle. That's all I have to say. He'd have a grip on ki sense. He'd have a good sense of it, like how he did in the actual show by 15. And also he would have start using ki in his fists to try and fight. And he could do a ki blast, but it drained a lot out of him. So he continued training, but he eventually stopped for the Grimoire Towers, like I said earlier. And he went to go get his grimoires, his sister Lily and the old priest waving him off, and the children. Him and Yuno went to go to the Grimoire Tower, as Yuno and him would go right in there, and there would be a dark figure behind them. Who knows who that is? And then they would go, and the old man wizard would say, here. He'd let all the grimoires go out, and everyone would start getting one. Big, small, thin, wide, not even a cover at all, small, and everyone would start getting them. Even Yuno got that special grimoire. It was a 4-leaf. Everyone was surprised by that. And even though Asta has ki, he didn't have magic, so it wouldn't allow him to have a grimoire during this time. Everyone would then say, where's my grimoire? As everyone was awing at and then everyone then turned their heads to him. Everyone would start laughing at him about how much he sucked, because he didn't have magic. Even though they thought he looked very menacing before, but now they just were laughing at him. Now they're looking down on him, even though he looked much more intimidating before. And then even the guy in the back would start laughing. He was wondering why this dude even came here. And then Asta ran out of the building. He's not as self-resilient as he is in the show. Even though he is quite self-resilient, this was a little too much for him right now. He would leave, but he was just he wasn't pouting, but he was like a little saddened by this. He just went back to train. As he then, with his heightened hearing, He could hear Yuno going back to the church, but people trying to gang up on him, so he would head back thinking he could go help Yuno, because he was thinking he would need some help. Yuno was there. So these two guys from the Grimoire Tower would come over there. They had some good magic for their age, just not as good as Yuno with his unlimited potential. They would attack Yuno, as Yuno would then stop them with like one hand. He wouldn't even need his Grimoire to stop them, as he used his wind magic to send them away. But then this new magic knight came up. He could use chain magic as he wrapped it around Yuno. Yuno's magic would suddenly go zipping away, as he couldn't use magic anymore. And this dude would take his Grimoire. Even without his Grimoire, Yuno is strong, but with these chains on him, he can't use his magic. The dude would say he was going to kill Yuno before Asta came in, and he didn't hit his head this time in the wall. He just landed like he usually would, but he made crackles in the ground as he landed. He would stare down at this chain mage. He would say, "What are you doing to my rival?" And then the chain mage would say, "Rival? You cannot even compare to this dude with the 4-leaf clover." Asta would then react by saying, "Well, I'm stronger than him by so much. Let me show you." The chain mage would try and sneak attack him from the behind, but as Asta would then grab his chain and break it, even though he didn't even have any magic. The chain mage would be surprised by this. He broke a magic chain. Asta would then look at the chain mage, as he got the attack because he had his key sense. He would then rush at the chain mage, as the chain mage had one last effort, as he then got him from behind and pulled him back into the wall. Asta was strong, but he still couldn't beat this amount of magic. He doesn't know how he could get this much magic from anywhere. He was thrown into the wall, but he wasn't really hurt like he was in the actual show. He's not as hurt, but he was still thrown into the wall. He was getting mad at himself by how humiliating this is, because this chain mage seems real weak. Asta would stand up, as he then suddenly started using his key. His key was rising. He was tapping into power he's never tapped into before, even though he's like an Akari state. It's like a slight Akari state, but not really it's an Akari state, but not really an Akari state. He's getting madder and madder. It's kind of like how Gohan was in the actual show, when he gained slight boost in power because of his emotions. It's not enough for any forms, but it was a good power boost to then make him able to get up and try and fight the chain mage. The chain mage would put up a really good fight, as Asta would suddenly get his sword out. He would get his Grimoire again, his dark Grimoire. It's because he had no magic that he was able to get it, and we won't talk about, and I won't get into spoilers, so I won't tell why he gets his Grimoire. He gets his Grimoire somehow, as it gave him the edge in the fight against the chain mage. He would then use the sword very easily to block all the chains, as he then beat down the chain mage with ease, almost killing him. But the old wizard would stop him as their fight prolonged for a while the chain mage would then be apprehended by them. Asta probably could have beaten him without his anti-magic swords, but it did give him a good edge, so I would say he would get his magic swords from this. And I'd say just because he has a key doesn't mean he can't beat magic. just because he has ki doesn't mean he can beat magic. Magic is still very a weakness to him. But with the anti-magic swords, it's not a weakness anymore. He could, by saying he could beat him, I'm saying the fight would have lasted a long time. But I wanted to end it quickly, so the grimoire makes sense. He got his grimoire, and he was happy after he freed Yuno. He was so happy that he saved his rival. He and his technical brother would then look at each other as the fight ended. Asta wouldn't look very much beat up at all because of the Saiyan blood flowing through him, healing him almost instantly after the fight. He wouldn't even be hurt, so he wouldn't get stronger from this. He just would get his anti-magic swords. He'd take his grimoire, put it back in his, like magic book, like that magic book pocket they have on their side, and they would look at each other and they would both fist bump as they then promised they would both become the Wizard King, or they would have a race to become the Wizard King. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I put a lot of effort into making you get a visual on the story this time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and leave about 10 likes on this video for the next part. See ya.